Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back with another episode of Daily Palantir. We have three big things to talk about today. Number one, Accenture, a sales distribution channel and partner for Palantir. They just had earnings. The generative AI part of their earnings, I think, is incredibly interesting and is telling for what may happen for Palantir in Q1. So we got to talk about that. Number two, Cathie Wood. She said Palantir will be the largest AI company in the world one day. We're going to have to react to it because we have to react to it. So we'll talk about that. And number three, the most important news story of the day, mixed reality headsets. We know there's a defense aspect towards it, a commercial aspect towards it with Palantir's partnership with Panasonic that they showed off at AIPCon 2 weeks ago. Today, we got some new updates on what mixed reality is actually going to look like on the battlefield. Shyam Sankar showed that stuff on his Twitter. A lot of stuff to talk about. Let's get into it. Okay, before we get into all the big news of the day, quickly, let's just look at the stock. Right now, we're at 2460 after hours. We did fall to like 2320 a couple days ago. Then we ballooned all the way to 2530, and we ended the day down at 2449 at 2460 after hours. So why are we at the mid-24s, and why do we get to the $25 level? Jerome Powell and the Fed in the United States reiterated that they are going to cut rates 3 times or 75 basis points in 2024. The market knew this already, so it wasn't that big of a surprise, but there were portions of the market that were thinking that he might lower that 75 basis points to 50 basis points because we did get in the United States hotter CPI data, hotter PPI data, and then maybe the Fed was going to be a bit more hawkish in the context of how they think of inflation. I personally felt that we're probably not going to get 75 basis points of cuts this year because the labor market is doing very well and unemployment is not rising that high. But Jerome Powell is definitely not going to signal to the market or outwardly tell them that you're not going to get the same amount of cuts that we promised you guys would get in December. So overall, the Fed reiterating their basic stance, which is that, hey, we're going to cut rates 3 times. Maybe they don't end up doing it, but they said they're going to eventually do it. The market has to end up believing the Fed, and stocks ended up rallying because of the fact that we all pretty much relearned the thing that we already knew, which is that the Fed was going to lower rates by 75 basis points. Palantir in this 23 to 25 range, I think it's fine. I think $30 is very possible after Q1 if they execute correctly. But to consolidate between 22 and 25 as a Palantir shareholder, there's not that much you could ask for. I mean, I'm pretty happy that we're in this range, and hopefully we can break out of it after we have good results in Q1. But the fact that we're still here is pretty good for Palantir. Okay, now let's talk about Accenture. Accenture had earnings that were not the best for them as a company. Their stock down about 8% on the day. But the generative AI part of their earnings I thought was the most interesting, and it has a lot of implications on Palantir. So quickly, let's just watch the Accenture CEO speak about generative AI. And then we'll talk about the implications for Palantir. Here we go.
So, Julie, talk to me about how the generative AI business translates into revenues in the future. How much of the business is it going to be, and when does it really start to move the needle?
Well, in order for generative AI to be able to be used, you do have to move to the cloud, create the data foundation, update your platforms, your ERP platforms, have the right security foundation, and then have the talent and the process change and responsible AI. So we're talking about a lot of growth over a number of years. And in fact, one of the things we just announced this last quarter is that to help clients with their talent rotation, we've invested and launched our LearnVantage services. We're buying a company called Udacity to help us scale that, to help drive that talent rotation. So we see a lot of growth ahead in the next several years as we help our clients drive their AI rotation, do their talent rotation, and really change the way they work and serve their clients and their customers.
Now, Accenture is a big company for those that don't know. Accenture is a $200 billion market cap company, thousands and thousands of clients across the entire globe. This is why this earnings matters in the context of Palantir. So what you saw the CEO just talk about is that generative AI is going to be around for a while. It's going to last for a long time. And there's going to be a lot of different ways we're going to implement generative AI throughout all these different enterprises we work with. Their fiscal Q2 2024 revenues, $600 million. Over $500 million was spent in generative AI consulting services for a total of $1.1 billion through the first half of the fiscal year. What does that mean for Palantir? Number one, AI demand is very, very real. If a consulting firm can do $600 million in AI revenue in 90 days, not a firm that's actually implementing the technology, but they're just implementing the strategies and the sort of presentations, the thought projects that clients have in terms of how they're going to implement AI. Is there some tech? Yes, but it's not like 80% gross margin types of technology, right? It's more strategy consulting around how a client, how Coca-Cola or Bank of America would implement some type of AI-based enabled platform for their business. That means clients are paying just for the information, not even the actual tech. Number three, Palantir can get recommended by Accenture to their clients because Accenture works with Palantir. They've worked with them to lead boot camps in India. They've worked with them to institute the federated data platform in the UK for the NHS. So Palantir and Accenture have a long-standing relationship since 2022, and Accenture basically serves as a sales distribution partner and a channel for Palantir to access more customers. And number four, Palantir has a massive market to capitalize on this because they're going to have gross margins that are significantly better than a consulting firm like Accenture if they can capture the market. So Accenture is doing $600 million off generative AI consulting services in this quarter. Palantir just did about $600 million or $607 million in the previous quarter. Now Accenture does about $16 billion per quarter, right? So this is a small part of their overall business. But the fact that they can actually get AI to be monetized to the tune of $1.1 billion in the first half of the year is pretty exciting to me, because at the end of the day, Accenture doesn't have the types of margins Palantir has. They don't have the type of free cash flow Palantir has. Palantir's a tech company. Their margins are going to be good. Their free cash flow is going to be good. They have fixed costs. So when they can scale a technology, it can really scale. When Palantir can, and hopefully when Palantir can capture this AI market that all of us think they have the chance to do, to me, this just signals that there is going to be a lot of money to be made, particularly from the enterprises that need an AI strategy and are looking to Accenture, KPMG, Deloitte for advice. A, Accenture can recommend Palantir. B, if they're looking, Palantir is supplying. And I think this is the biggest thing to understand about the broader AI sector. And it's very, very, very important to understand if you're a Palantir investor, because one of the bearish takes on not just Palantir, but the sort of broader macro environment we're in the context of AI and the enterprise is that, well, wait a second, why does AI even matter if it's just a fad or if companies are not going to be spending that much money on it? Is there really an opportunity for Palantir to go after? I think it's unequivocal at this point. Micron also, they surprised with an $800 million profit yesterday. They had a phenomenal earnings. AI demand, semiconductor demand, chip demand, GPU demand, it's real. And if a consulting company can do $500 million in 90 days off AI consulting services, then a tech company, if they can actually capture the market, I think will also be able to generate significant amounts of revenue in their respective fields. So what this shows to me is Accenture is booming in the AI market for clients. They can possibly recommend Palantir to a lot of those clients. That means there's another avenue for growth for Palantir just from Accenture alone. And the overall AI spend is there. Clients are willing to spend, not even just for the tech, but for the information, which means they will be willing to spend for the tech. Palantir just has to go and capture that market. All right, next thing let's talk about. We got to do it, folks. We got to talk about it. Cathie Wood was on a podcast, and she said that she agrees with Alex Karp that Palantir can be the biggest AI company in the world. So this is 1 minute of her speaking. Palantir's source posted this on Twitter. I'll put his Twitter in the description so you guys can follow this account for more Palantir updates. But here's Cathie on Palantir.
Needed to know about the apps that we're going to build on top of it. So we are looking for that. In AI, and I have to say, Palantir reported this week, and Alex Karp, who's the CEO, believes that Palantir will be the largest AI company in the world. And after looking at their results, listening to Alex and his team, I think that might be right. Because what's happening is companies around the world are saying, this is big, and we know we can't be left behind. And CEOs are getting involved in the decision, not just CTOs. Because there's so many small AI companies that have these, chat bots and point solutions, and, they're depending on others to put them all together. Palantir is saying, no, you have to look at the organization and get the data in one place, integrate it, get the workflows. So I think it could be a big disruptor, and nobody believes this right now, but it could be a big disruptor to Microsoft.
Okay, the reason I find this hilarious, dude, is because these two guys, they're basketball players, former basketball players, and they're on a podcast with Cathie Wood. I don't think they know. I don't think they care about Palantir, first of all. I don't think they know about Palantir. They're in the basketball world, right? They don't care that much. They're interviewing Cathie because she's a big name, and that's how the podcast game works, right? You got to get big names. So it's just funny because they're listening to her basically say this random company is one day going to disrupt Microsoft, and in their head, they're probably just like, okay. Right? I just find it hilarious. Number two, I mean, look, what she says at the end to me didn't make a lot of sense. She says, no one believes us right now. It's like, no. The stock's up almost 50% year to date. Everyone believes you right now. The time when no one believed you was when you had 37 million shares of Palantir and the stock was at $12 in February of 2022. And then you liquidated that entire stake and took a $400 million loss and took that money and put it into Roku. Look, you're back in the stock. It is what it is. You know, that's in the past. But the time to be super bullish was a time when everyone was bearish. And we remember, if you're part of this channel, you remember 2022 was tough for Palantir. So it's like when you're saying no one believes us right now. It's like, no, a lot of people actually, the street has price targets at $37. A lot of people believe Palantir, maybe not the next Microsoft, but definitely can disrupt and definitely can become one of the best AI plays of the next decade. People believe it. The cat's out of the bag. Now the question is just, can they execute? But in 2022, no one believed it. People thought they were going bankrupt. People thought there was just like some random company that would never prove themselves. And that's when she sold, right? So I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. Whenever Cathie says stuff like this, it always makes me feel a little like, I mean, I like what she's saying, but it always is a little weird given when she sold out of the stock. Now, in the context of disrupting Microsoft, again, my stance on this has been very clear. Microsoft and Google are likely going to become very, very big AI players. They already are because they touch billions of consumers. Palantir is stuck in the enterprise, and I think Palantir can still be an Oracle, Salesforce type of company, which is a $300-400 billion market cap. I think they can do very, very well. Right now, it's at a $50 billion market cap. That is a great return, and that is a great story that can play out, and that can be one of the most transformative stories over the next decade. But to say it's larger than Microsoft, they would have to, at some level, touch consumers. And maybe they do, but right now they're not really focused on that. Now, is there a way that this B2B play could still become like a $1 trillion valuation and really get up there? Yes. If there was any company to do it, I think it's Palantir. Just given all the different verticals they're involved in, all the different moats they have in different verticals. Like, I think it would be Palantir. But right now, they're just focused on proving themselves and growing more than 20% year over year. So big claim by Cathie Wood. I do think you need to have some type of consumer presence to really go after it. But if you were not going to go after consumers and still become very big, my number one bet would be a company like Palantir, because there's no other company that's building integrated software systems for every single vertical that exists throughout the entire enterprise, healthcare, logistics, energy, you name it, in a way that's conclusive of all that data and then actually driving insights from that data like Palantir. There's other people out there, but I think it's Palantir at the end of the day. So we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe one day bigger than Microsoft. Okay, last thing we'll talk about today, and this actually goes in point with the thing with the point I just made around Palantir becoming potentially a very big company, even if they're stuck in B2B. Palantir keeps finding different ways to use their products and services in the enterprise that have different use cases and applications that we didn't expect before. This was shared today by a product manager who works at Palantir for the mixed reality part of the division, and from Shyam Sankar. What you're seeing right here, and you probably saw it on the thumbnail of this video, are people in the Army that are using Meta Quest headsets that are branded via Palantir. Because the headset is irrelevant. What matters is the software on the headset. It could be Vision Pros, Meta Quest, really doesn't matter. What matters is the software that's integrated on them. So that's one picture. This is what they're actually seeing. So when you put on the headset, we are actually getting an insight into what these people on the battlefield are looking at. And a lot of it is the integration of data in real time. Here's 2 videos on this as well.
There's risk of decapitation with the rotors.
That's Shyam Sankar's voice, and then here's another one.
He points at something with his laser pointer. You see that red laser pointer? That's someone else's laser pointer. So,
Okay.
So you sit there and say, like, hey, like this building, yes, I'm drawing with a circle, that is the key terrain. So go ahead and go to the west of that. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, if someone's listening in, they're going to be able to hear all that as well. Yep. The idea down the road is we will have seamless integration between these laser pointers and then the 2D mapping application as well.
Can he draw on it? Like,
he points at...
This is really cool. Now, why is this so cool? Palantir is taking a use case of mixed reality and they're actually giving it meaning in life. So we just saw on AIPCon a couple weeks ago, Palantir showing off the use cases for the manufacturing sector in smart factories with Panasonic, the company that makes batteries for Tesla, with how the Vision Pro is integrated with Palantir's IC2 mixed reality software. And then individuals are able to find insights and drive data integration seamlessly in real time while they're actually working via the headset and Palantir software. That's the commercial application of it. At the time, I said that was pretty incredible because I only thought that Palantir had applications of it on the defense side. Today, we're seeing actual footage of people in the Army using it, even if it's just in a simulated environment, to be able to see what the use cases would be like when they would actually use it in a real situation. That, to me, shows the duality of this mixed reality product, one on the battlefield, one on the commercial sector. So going back to Palantir being one of the largest B2B companies in the world, even if they don't touch consumers, the reason for that would be the video we just saw. Their ability to take a piece of software, apply it to a piece of hardware that, in my opinion, is not mainstream yet enough for consumers because it really doesn't matter. People don't need to put on a headset just to watch a video game or to play a video game, to watch a movie. Like yeah, it's nice, but it's not that important. But at Panasonic, if you can actually become 10 times more productive because you have a headset on, that matters. That's valuable. On the battlefield, obviously, if you can gain more insights while you're in combat and have a headset on, that matters. What that means for Palantir shareholders and investors is the business intelligence and the value that that will provide to a Panasonic or to the U.S. military, I believe, is worth a decent chunk of cash for Palantir. Now, how much is that? I don't know. We'll see. But it would be really cool in Q1 earnings if Palantir comes out and says, the mixed reality portion of our business is driving a significant amount of revenue for our commercial or our government side of the business. That's probably not going to happen. It's a small part of the business. It's just getting started. But the point is, with Palantir, you have the potential for these small parts of the business to eventually become much larger parts of the business. Why? Because the company's innovating. They're not buying other companies like Snowflake. They're actually innovating on their own. And they have all this R&D because of 20 years of working with places like the government, which then feeds into the commercial sector. They initiated IC2 on the battlefield back in November, December of 2023. And then Panasonic in February of 2024 is using it in their own way. I think it's because the R&D they got from the government sector gave them the confidence to be able to introduce it to a Panasonic and said, hey, maybe there's a use case here. So again and again, I just keep seeing different avenues for Palantir to figure out how to grow, figure out how to innovate and grow. And then, FedStart is the simplest example to me. Like FedStart, you got all these startups competing for your government contracts. Instead of just letting them compete away or letting the government, end up giving the contracts to them, Palantir's like, hey, what if we turn that into a business? All these startups need something. We've been in the government for 20 years. We're going to get the big daddy contracts. They're still going to get small contracts. What if we could get a piece of those contracts just by helping them in some capacity? And then boom, you got FedStart. I think there are a lot of growth levers outside of just top line commercial that Palantir can pull to be able to grow. Maybe that doesn't happen in Q1. Maybe that doesn't even happen all throughout 2024. But the seeds are in place in order for that to happen over the next 5-6 years. And that's the exciting part right now about what Palantir's doing. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. I will see you guys tomorrow on another episode of Daily Palantir, dailypalantir.substack.com, my free email newsletter, and hobbits.ai, LLM I built. You can ask any questions you want around Palantir, get responses, check it out. Link is in the description. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.